Now, some studies show that birth order can impact on your sibling relationships right throughout your life.
So here to tell us more about this is life coach Mark Fennell. It's lovely to have you here,
Absolutely.
Mark. We hear about birth order all the time.
Yes.
So that is what place you come within the family, eldest, middle, whatever. So how can it influence the traits that you have?
Well, it does. So basically, if you're a middle child, now middle child syndrome, it's not a clinical thing. It's just a contextual thing, but it's not actual syndrome, which is kind of a horrible name, really. But being a middle child, or whichever birth order you come in, definitely influences your personality type, how you socially integrate, relationally integrate. And it's a massive correlation as you progress through your older years. It has a bigger influence than we think. So a study was done. So Hexaco, who do like personality traits and personality types, they got this information from 700,000 of people who had done their studies. And they saw this correlation that, hang on a minute, there's people who score very high on the H's, the humility, the honesty. And it turns out they're all middle children predominantly. So they realised that this is a big kind of correlation. So bottom line was they realised that people who are middle child is, and regardless of birth order, it's a statistic, so it's not everyone's like this, but a huge connection between being a middle child, being humble, being honest, being good at cooperation, being good at being lenient with people and understanding of people, emotional intelligence. There's a lot going on.
Sorry, are you going to your middle? Thank you. Are you going to your middle child in your life? And I'm going humble, humble. I'm just like, no, she's in Australia, so I don't have to. I'm like,
so
no.
This is the thing, right? And most people say this, but here's the flip side. They can be the most rebellious, the biggest trouble in the house. They can also row on their own, so they become independent. And they also, statistics, as they say, have said that when it comes to friendships, they will have friendships as more important than family relationships. So there's pros and cons. So
is this, explain in terms of the family dynamic, this is because they're always trying to catch up with the firstborn, but then they're not quite the baby. So hence that's why they're like, I'm neither of them, so therefore I'm going to prioritise my friends over family.
They're kind of stuck a little bit between. And it depends on the upbringing, it depends how it all goes. Some families will feel it more than others. It's not a great term to use, but what happens is you're kind of not independent. So as far as you've got someone to compete with, as far as the eldest, and then you've got maybe the baby who might even be the favourite, so you've got to compete there. So you're used to competing for things, even trying to get a shower. You know, I've got to make sure the other two siblings aren't in there already. And if the baby, wants to use the shower, the family might say, we'll let her have the shower.
What family is this that the baby got anything?
Right. So what's really interesting about it is they looked at entrepreneurs, and there is a disproportionate middle children are entrepreneurial. John F. Kennedy, for example, Martin Luther King Jr., Jennifer Lopez, Julia Roberts, Madonna, so many. The list is endless. Abraham Lincoln.
That's interesting.
Okay, we'd love to hear from you. 0896 111 111, because all we heard when we were growing up from that middle child was, I'm forgotten about, none of you care about me.
Yeah.
Did you have that in your house? No?
Yes, I would. No, my sister's perfect. No. Does the age gap have any relevance in this? Because like Meri and me were just saying, we're the babies by quite a good bit, 7 years in her case and 10 years in mine. So does that affect?
So you probably have two babies in the house,
For a time there was,
that's a lot. And if the eldest are very close in age, they can flip roles. The second can actually be. So it depends how big the family and the separation between
I see that in
years.
my family, definitely. My guys are only 14 months apart, and sometimes the younger one becomes the leader, and then the other guy. Yeah, it's really funny seeing how it plays out.
What's really kind of interesting about it as well is that it can be changed, but a lot of it comes down to if they felt seen and they didn't feel invisible, if they felt listened to, that can actually make them very good at socially integrating, because in the family they were recognised and they saw that. But if they weren't recognised in the family, they can become very rebellious, and that can carry through into adult life.
So what do you do as a parent now that I'm at that age where they, these formative years? I actually remember our creche owner saying to us, you need to watch JJ, because like that, number one was Mr. Big Character, but then 14 months later we have this other guy kind of coming up. So how do you make sure the middle guy
it's like when you see the eldest, there's loads of photographs and video. It's like a whole documented upbringing. And the second child is there any photos of me, Mum?
Yes.
That can happen. So basically, you want to make sure that the child feels listened to. You give them one-on-one attention. Basically, you give them that space, celebrate their achievements, and always let them know that there's an ear there if they need to speak about anything that they're going through. They need to just feel seen. The downside is, and where you see it in relationships as they go on, they can be quite lenient. They can put up with kind of bad behavior more than they should because they're used to being in that position. So it is important. It's not, I don't like blaming parents on everything because that's not fair. But it does help if the parent gives them that independence and that, should we say, one-on-one attention.
Okay, we don't want to leave anyone out because that's what you've just said. Make sure that everything is acknowledged. So what are some of the traits of, we'll say, the eldest and the baby then, that you'll be like, yep?
Well, they say, and this is only a statistic, the best combination for a couple is... Will I tell you? It's the eldest and a baby is the best seemingly dynamic. One of the worst is two middle children getting together. So that can be,
Okay, I think I'm in the clear. Are you in the clear?
So no, but don't take that as gospel. You can't take that as gospel. But what I will say is, like, it may have been, if someone's a middle child, how it impacts their self-esteem and stuff like that is where it can be a problem later on in life. The best thing is, though, it is changeable and it is, shall we say, fixable. So if you fall into middle child syndrome, well, you can also learn and kind of adjust out of that, because it is just a kind of a typecast name. What I would always say is, it may have been a struggle. If you're a middle child, it may have been a struggle when you were younger, but it can lead to being a super strength when you're older. And if you look at the entrepreneurs out there, it would prove that. So you know, we all have our kinks and, should we say, our traits and positives and negatives, pros and cons, whatever your age. The main thing is, above all, self-awareness. Figure out, well, what is it that I need to do better on, and let me go and get a life coach and fix that.
Tommy isn't even the middle child, he's managed to win at that as well. Entrepreneurial spirit.
He makes the best middle child as the eldest.
As the eldest. He makes all the good childs. We would love to hear from you this morning as your birthplace and your family and what you think it says about you.
You can't help but start doing in your own family. Once this conversation starts, it's actually really
There's a lot of studies in it, and it does prove that it does impact. But at the same time, it's not the be-all, end-all.
0896 111 111. You can find Mark, as always, at markfennell.ie online. Thank you for joining us. Cheers. Thank you, Mark.
Typical eldest kid.
There we go.
Such an eldest vibe.